goodbyes make you think. They make you realize what you've had, what you've lost, and what you've taken for granted. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. The two hardest things to say in life is hello for the first time and goodbye for the last. Saying goodbye doesn't mean anything. It's the time we spent together that matters, not how we left it. Okay, you caught me. I am reading from a webpage of goodbye quotes, but saying goodbye is difficult. I spent 2,300 days here building this community. That's almost 6.5 years in Minecraft, almost 3 years in real life. But today we're packing up, leaving this place, and heading off to find a new location and start again. Well, not from scratch, that would take too long. I'm taking my ender chest full of shulker boxes full of items. Today in my forever world, we're searching for good locations to build a castle. A castle town, really, using several of the builds I've designed for my tutorials, which you all seem to love so much. And I love you all for loving them. The day is finally here. Before we go build a castle somewhere else, let's take a look at the one I built here at spawn, Castle God's Cleave. One of my greatest builds ever, if I do say so myself. Every part of this castle is furnished and decorated and explorable, which is the criteria by which I judge the success of my work. I don't build facades or empty buildings. I build living spaces. Every room in this castle is built with a sense of lived-in purpose. If you look carefully at the keep, you'll notice something about it. This part here is a great hall in the Gothic style, and the top is a Gothic style tower. But this part in the middle, which they're both connected to, is a Norman castle keep. That's right, I built this as though someone originally built a Norman keep here and then expanded and updated it. I built the castle first and then the ground below it, which is another prime example of how I build castles and how I would build another. That's because if you're looking for the perfect piece of land on which to build a castle in Minecraft, you're not ever likely to find it. There will always be some landscaping work to be done. The castle base is hollow though, and this is where I built a lot of farms. I'm going to turn off some of these before I go, such as this bamboo farm over here in the corner, because these chests are getting pretty close to full. So to turn this off, all we have to do is knock off this lever, and the minecart stops. And then if we put the lever on this block here and turn it on, all of the pistons extend, and now the bamboo cannot grow. This pumpkin and melon farm over here can be turned off just by switching off this lever in the back corner. When the minecart stops here, then it will no longer collect pumpkins and melons, and that will prevent this item system from being filled up, although I will say it's pretty full already. And then over here on the far side, we have my sugarcane farm, which I built in a tutorial that you can find here on my channel. If we do the same thing and pop off this lever right here, then the minecart will stop. We can place the lever here, turn it on, and all of the pistons extend, blocking the sugarcane from growing. I also have an iron farm here in the industrial area below the castle. These villagers have run this place night and day, summoning one iron golem after another and causing them to burn up and drop iron and posies, which have been converted into iron blocks and bone meal down here in the chests. I'm going to turn off this iron farm too by pillaring up to this zombie and flipping this lever. Now these guys can take a little vacation while I'm gone and finally get some sleep. It's difficult to say goodbye to the place you've lived so long. But there's nothing left to do except to do it. Goodbye, you weirdos. And thanks for all the fish. So now we're going to start looking for good locations to build a castle. And here we are. Did you think we were going to fly around for a long time? Absolutely not, and that's the point I want to make. Any location in Minecraft is a good location to build. You just have to have the vision and the experience to see it. This piece of land, for example, is a medium island, which is a great place to build a castle because it keeps the project small. It's surrounded by water, which creates difficulties for invaders, but also allows for rudimentary waste disposal. If the island is surrounded by high cliffs, that's good because enemy forces will be unable to land. Plus, this island gets bonus points for having grass for good farming, and trees and animals could possibly spawn here, though there aren't any now. However, there's these rocks just offshore, preventing us from building any kind of harbor. So our kingdom would be poor if not able to sail ships and trade with other kingdoms. So let's go take a look at this larger piece of land over here. Yes, this is a much better piece of land. There's already livestock spawning here and lots of trees. And just look at these high cliff walls surrounding almost the entire island. We can place our castle keep up here on this raised mound and surround it with walls, forming what was known historically as the Inner Ward or Inner Bailey. This island is big enough that we could have an Outer Bailey too, and then probably a village down here where the trees are. However, we have this weird ravine here in the middle of the island that won't serve any purpose in my build, so we'll have to light it up to prevent mobs spawning down here and then cover it with dirt and stone until it looks natural. A few Minecraft days have passed and I've gathered up all the livestock into pens here, which allows me to breed them for food and also prevent them walking into my worksite. Although I've brought a lot of stone and cobblestone with me, I don't have any delusions that it will be enough, so I'm going to build a stone generator here out of crimson stem blocks, which are fireproof and technically wood, so they're hard to break with a pickaxe. The ravine is now well lit and covered up. Now, finally, we can start working on the mound where we're going to build the Norman Keep. Historically, the earliest of the Norman Keeps were built on top of a mound or motte, compiled of stone, sediment, and dirt, and sometimes wood. The idea was to raise up the keep, making it difficult to approach. But after a few years, they stopped this. Then you find many Norman Keeps on flat, raised ground. This is the kind of castle I'm going for. I've run out of dirt, so I'm going back to this first island where we first landed in this area, and I'm going to collect all the dirt I need from here. Now you may think, oh, duty boy, that's going to look terrible. But there's a strategic reason for this. If an invading force wanted to, they could land on this island and build a base to launch attacks directly on my keep. I'm going to prevent that by tearing up all the ground here, leaving an invader no resources to use. There's literally no one in this world but me, but these are the kind of considerations kings and lords needed to make when building their castle. Finally, it's time to start building the Norman Keep. I want to at least build the ground floor level so I can have storage and a safe place to sleep. In my tutorial video, I raised these walls with the Axiom mod, and boy, I'm missing Axiom. But this is my forever world, and I only play here in survival mode. It's been a couple days since I last recorded, and I've been texturing the base of the keep with regular stone and cracked stone bricks and mossy stone bricks to add some age and story to this build. I've lit up about half of this island to reduce mob spawning and make things safer, but these torches are only temporary. I ran out of vines, so I threw up this little rack to grow them on, and I'm using what this grows for texturing the cobblestone floor inside the keep with moss. I've been growing a lot of tall spruce trees, and now I've got like almost like, well, more probably close to half a shulker box of spruce, which should be pretty good. And then over here, my cobblestone generator, I've been coming here every once in a while and mining stone, and I've got a double chest full of stone, which should be enough to keep going. So we're finally at a good point where we can start to lay out the fortified walls and towers surrounding the keep. I happen to be standing on a spot that would make an excellent location for a turret tower, and I'll show you why. For one thing, like I've been saying, strategically, that island right there presents the biggest threat to this island and to this keep. If an enemy force were to take that island and make their base on it, it would not be good. But a turret tower positioned right here would be an extremely good location to counterattack any forces that may be attacking. And because of that, we'll probably want to run a fortified wall along the back here and then have another tower right here. And from this tower, we will probably run a fortified wall all the way down the coast here, right at the top of the cliffs. We will probably angle out diagonally and then come along this edge and then have another tower here and another tower on this raised platform of ground directly across from it. Looking at things with Freecam makes it extremely easy, but if you don't have the ability to do that, you can always pillar up on blocks to get a high view of the area where you're building your keep and your fortified walls and towers. At this point, I'm not laying out anything permanent because this entire area back here is going to have to be leveled out. We don't want any of the walls to connect to the keep. The keep was freestanding and the walls would just surround it. Each of the baileys or wards would typically be flattened out. What we're going to do, since we don't want invaders coming up this bank right here, we're actually going to build a large stone wall back here, just like I did at God's Cleave Castle, and then we're going to build the towers and the fortified walls on top of it. Welcome back. So the rise is now completed and covered mostly in natural looking grass and stone with a divide along natural lines, and we are ready to lay out our castle walls and towers. Quick update on the progress of our new little kingdom. I built this quarantine cabin to prepare for the eventuality of capturing and curing a zombie villager, and we have done just that. I thought he was going to be a nitwit, but once he transformed back, he appears to have become a normal villager. So I've got a bunch of stone, and we are going to start laying out our towers and walls, starting with the tower we previously discussed putting here. I've got the first tower outline done, but we're not going to build a tower until we have all the other walls and all the other towers laid out, just like this. Building part of your tower and walls before you know where the others are going is a recipe for disaster, my friends. Now we're going to run a fortified wall, also known as a curtain wall, down this way. As I've mentioned in previous videos, we're going to use this wall, this 3-block wall, as the first buttress of this section of wall. So the way that it comes out here, there'll be a buttress here, and then there will be a forward wall here, and then another buttress here. So I'm going to continue going down, measuring where every one of the buttress goes, and that way I've got a perfect segue into the next tower. Once we get a section of wall laid out, we want to make sure before we commit to putting the tower at this end that we've basically got an even number of 2 sections of walls at the same time. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, we don't want to put another 3 section here, I don't think. I think we definitely want to go ahead and put the tower here. I seem to have made a mistake and put that tower too far forward, and so I need to move the entire thing back. So now that we're going to lay out a wall going this way, we're going to do the exact same thing here, put a buttress here, and then the main wall will be coming out of the center of the tower. We will then have a secondary wall in front of that, and then we will have buttresses every 3 spaces, starting here. So right here, like I mentioned before, we've got a situation where we sort of have the land coming out. So we are going to start running diagonal, starting with this section of wall right here. So just to move these forward, these two will go here. And then I think these two go here and this goes here. And then we will move the next one forward. Kind of forgot to check though, to make sure that these segments, that we've got an even number of 2 segment sections of walls. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. We're in good shape. All right. So we have managed to make, I think I'm just going to double check, a series of 2 sets of walls. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct. Okay. And then let's see, we will be resuming a straight wall right here. I'm getting very nervous about this diagonal segment of wall. Yep, so I'm looking at a model that I made earlier, and each segment of wall actually needs to be 2 back from the one before it. Okay, so based on what I saw there in my creative world, we were kind of doing it backwards. We want to come out 2 more this way, and then the next section of wall, we want to come forward 3, like that. So that will work out much better. And then we have 2 here, and we bring out the next wall section 3, just like that. That way this wall extends 2 in front of the previous sectional wall. Okay, so just to get the battlements right, we've got to have 2, 4, 6, 8 sections. And then this tower seems like it has kind of moved down and sort of gotten to a point where it's sort of floating over this cliff. I think that's going to be okay. And then we will position another one directly opposite over here that will come down this way. And then we'll have a diagonal wall section that comes to here and another one that connects back to this tower. So yeah, we're going to have some parts of this tower that extend way down into the grass blocks here. And we're even going to tear up some of those grass blocks and extend the stone down. And that'll look actually very epic, I think. So now rather than extend my wall across this straight area here, I'm going to go back to this tower and I'm going to start extending the wall from this tower and down this wall. So looking back, I think this is in line with the last segment here. So if we actually extend this wall section forward by 1 more, then we should really be directly in line with that one over there. And then, of course, we're going to want to start having a diagonal wall going out this way. All right, so we've got that lined up, and then we want another straight sectional wall going down here. All right, I think I might be in line, but let's do this the right way. Yeah, so this is 251. And then we want to try to head straight over here. And we want to make sure that this is also 251, which will be the first wall of the tower. Okay, that should be it. And that is looking pretty good. So yeah, we've got this nice little nestle for the keep back here. And then we can expand out and we can have some more of the buildings that I talked about earlier in this area. And then right here between these two, we can have a small gatehouse in order to prevent people who shouldn't get from the lower ward to the upper ward from getting there. All right, so I actually moved it off center because putting it right in the center of this curtain wall would start to make everything a little too symmetrical, a little too uninteresting. And between these two is where we're going to build some kind of a gatehouse structure. I'm going to work on the walls and the towers first, and then we'll work on the gatehouse after that. So I've made a huge mistake. So that section of wall right there, I actually should have started the diagonal right there. See, like I've been saying from the beginning, we need to have 2 sections. We can't have just 1 section. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. So the fact that there's 9 there is going to throw off the battlements for the entire rest of the wall. So you know what this means. This means that I have to tear all these walls out and build them again. So I just want to emphasize that it's very important that you do your entire layout. Your entire grounds needs to be laid out with walls and towers before you raise up any structures at all. Otherwise, you'll end up like me. I'm okay. I'm okay. I didn't rage quit, and I got some work done. I've made some great progress on the curtain walls and towers, but there's one element that I have intentionally left off. So if we go up through this doorway here, we will find a little spiral stairs that takes us up to a very short and safe ladder where the trapdoor is open for some reason. And then we have arrow slits here that we can fire through. Of course, like, I don't really know if we've got a great angle of attack. On that island, maybe, that's good, but certainly not down in the water below. But anyway, got all these walls done, got the 2 towers done, but there is one element missing, which I have intentionally left off. Can you guess what it is? That's right. It's the battlements. I want to take a moment to clear up some misconceptions of commenters on my previous videos. First, I published the Castle Walls and Towers video, then the Norman Castle Keep videos. However, in both videos, I used matriculations on the walls. Historically, matriculations were not built on Norman keeps. I used them on my Norman keep because, as I explained in my Fortified Towers and Walls video, they work extremely well in Minecraft. So if you watch the 2 videos in order, you would have understood that, but I didn't explain that very well in the Norman Keep video, so I'm sorry about that. Historically, no, a Norman keep would not have matriculations. They were not invented until the 13th century, or close, and they were mainly a design element of Southern European castles, especially in France. Not so much English, so a Norman keep in the early 1000s would not have matriculations. I put them on my build because Minecraft. So here's what the battlements would have looked like on top of a Norman keep and also the walls surrounding the Norman keep. So what you see here are normal battlements. Basically, you have a low wall covering the top of the wall that archers can hide behind and pop out to shoot through. This top part that's raised up is called a merlon, and this depressed area, or basically this space between the 2 merlons, is called a crenel. What you'll notice about battlements that basically is the reason that I didn't use them in my Norman Castle Keep is that they don't really favor shooting downward. They favor shooting outward at like an enemy that, for example, might be over there on that island or that island. But the fact of the matter is they don't let you shoot down at enemies that are already down at the base of the walls. So frankly, battlements become kind of useless when the enemy charges up close. So sticking to my guns, which of course is my thing, I am going to build these walls around my Norman Castle Keep with matriculations. And I'm going to modify the Norman Castle Keep for historical purposes, not purposes. Purposes? What did I mean by that? Oh, sorry, I keep hitting the button over and over again. I messed up my own joke. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build these walls with matriculations as designed. I think it will look the best, and even if it's not historically accurate, it will allow me to fire on enemies that appear down there in the dark. One little difference that I am going to make in this design is that I'm not going to top these off with brick slabs. I am actually going to use polished andesite slabs to simulate more of a coping stone, which would have been like a double-sided slant. It would have been slanted on both sides, I mean, front and back. But we don't really have a block like that in Minecraft, and stairs are just too tall. Welcome back. We started this episode on exactly day 2300 of this world, and it's now day 2498, as you can see in the upper left corner of the screen there. So I've been working on this now for 198 days in Minecraft, or 66 hours in real life. This gives you an idea of how much time a project like this can take. However, I have made tons of progress on this build. All of the towers and the walls are now complete. I've also made quite a bit of progress on the keep. A lot of the time that it took to complete the task was tied up in the texturing. I raised the walls and towers using only stone brick blocks, and then I knocked holes in the stone brick and replaced them with cracked stone bricks, regular stone, cobblestone, and andesite. I'm not just replacing random single blocks, by the way. I knock a zigzag shape in the wall like this. I feel like this makes the texturing tell a story of construction incidents or battle damage and repairs being made using found materials. I start by texturing the inside of the walls first, and then I move outside the wall and make sure that the texturing that shows through out here continues through the buttress outside. I tend to use mossy blocks low down on my builds to indicate grass stains or water damage, but also to age this build and give the appearance of nature starting to reclaim it. Texturing this build is optional and it will add a lot of extra hours to your project, but I definitely think it's worth it. In using all this stone brick, we need to break up the walls to make them feel more organic and aged. As I discussed earlier, I've actually modified my Norman Castle Keep design to use regular battlements like we were talking about earlier. I don't know, I think it just kind of blends. I mean, like, especially when you're back here, and I'm kind of seeing now that maybe the matriculations also sort of cause the battlements to kind of stand out, especially the lip of the roof here. However, this is historically accurate. The walls would simply rise up and end in the little merlons and crenellations like you see here. I also did kind of a riff on having murder holes in here, so I have offset murder holes. We could have an archer standing like here to fire down on people coming through the door, and another one over here to fire on people trying to get through the interior door. I also replaced the matriculations up here with crenels and merlons, and I feel like it almost works a little bit better up here, especially because there's like the wood behind it. You can see these a little bit better. But overall, I'm happy to make this keep look a little bit older. And clearly I have to go through still and break up this stone brick and age it and texture it. So the only thing left is the gatehouse, and you'll notice I've marked a place for it between the front walls here. I lowered all the walls down across the front to meet the ground, and it looks quite good. After I build the gatehouse on the same level as the ground, I'll extend the walls down too, and I think it will end up looking pretty epic. This will be a small gatehouse with a small drawbridge, and I'll build my larger gatehouse over here facing that mountain and serving as entrance to the fortified city. In the gatehouse tutorial video that I have here on my channel, I briefly showed a Norman-style gatehouse, and ever since then, people have been asking me for a tutorial for that gatehouse rather than the giant, massive gatehouse that I did show you how to build. So anyway, I'm going to build this gatehouse here, and I'm going to take it step by step to show you what I'm doing. So to start off with, I have two 9x3 boxes basically outlined on the floor here with stone bricks. Inside here, I have cobblestone slabs for the floor, and I'll explain why a little bit later. And then one in from both sides, I have placed a cobblestone block to mark the front edge of the arch that's going to be just inside the gatehouse. On each side, you're going to want to come over and place stairs. So stand in the center, place your stairs going to each side like this, and that is where there's going to be arrow slits in the walls in here. That way, if people do try to invade and they get caught in the middle here, you can have archers shoot them from both sides through the arrow slits. And the next step here is I'm just going to raise all these walls up by 5 more blocks to a total height of 6. Okay, so now we've got both of those structures built up to a full height of 6. And now we're going to start adding archways between the cobblestone block supports. I'm kind of jumping up and just adding blocks, connecting this across the top, and then we're simply going to place a stair inside each to form a little archway. We're then going to bring in the brick wall to either side to reinforce this archway by putting, whoops, upside down there like that and like that to show you what we're going to do there. So yeah, night's coming up. I'm going to go sleep real quick, but that is how we form the arch, and I'm quickly going to do it on this other side. Inside here, between the two arches, I'm going to extend additional little, I guess maybe we call them beams of cobblestone blocks from one side to the other. Just 2 spaces in from each of the arches. And then we're going to add a stair beneath each. Now we're going to scaffold up on top of the build. So in each of these gaps, I'm going to fill these 2 spots on each end between each row with slabs. Oops, looks like I need a few more slabs. All right, and then I'm going to just place walls in each of these spaces, and that way I can fire arrows down at enemies below. Or, historically they would use things like burning sand or boiling water to dump on enemies who had managed to force their way into the gate. On each side, I'm going to move directly to the middle, and I'm going to start putting ladders going down the wall until I can no longer reach. And then I'm just going to slide down there, and we're going to place a ladder like that. Now notice it doesn't connect to the floor because we are standing on a cobblestone slab, but that's okay. But because it doesn't connect to the floor, we can literally move right past it most of the time without getting hooked on it or starting to ascend it. In order to ascend it, you just face it and do a quick jump to get up the ladder. And I'm going to put another one on this far side over here. So if you look through these arrow slits, you can see that you have a pretty good advantage on the people inside there. You can just pop in and out of this corner and shoot the people that are in here. Of course, for these guys, it's dangerous for these guys. They'll be getting shot back at, but that's kind of the reason we use the slab here, is that we wanted to raise these archers a little bit above the invaders who are inside that space in order to give them a tactical advantage. On each side of the gate here, I'm going to create an extra little buttress like this, and I'm going to use a piece of polished andesite as a cornerstone, and then just top this up with stairs. Oh, and also we're going to do the same thing on the outside here. I'm just going to have to do it from a little bit of an angle, since I have got a restricted space here. We can then knock out some of these bricks going up the side here and place additional andesite as more cornerstones. And we're doing this in order to replicate the design of cornerstones that I have over here on the keep. We can now raise walls on top of here 4 blocks high. At each corner, be sure to alternate stone brick with polished andesite for the cornerstones. Inside, raise brick walls up to the full height, leaving doorways in the middle on each side for access to the ladders down. I use spruce fences to bar the windows just for color variation and to make the gatehouse look a little cheaply constructed. But you can also use iron bars if you prefer. Then top the middle room with stripped spruce planks going across with slabs between, and remember to raise a ladder up the back wall with a trapdoor at the top. Cover the 2 side passages with slabs as well. Since I'm adding a drawbridge, I'm going to go over to the corner and knock out 4 blocks here and 4 more on the other side. I've crafted some grindstones to look like wheels and winches for the mechanism, and we're going to extend out beams that are 7 blocks long with a polished andesite block at each end. You can also use netherite blocks on these if you have them. Just behind each of these holes I made, I'm going to raise columns of cobblestone walls and pop out these slabs on the level above so they can continue up. I've hung some cauldrons with water from chains over campfires here to show we're boiling water in case someone attacks. Now we can raise up the walls on top of the gatehouse 5 rows high, remembering to alternate cornerstones at each corner every other row. Also be sure not to cover the space above your drawbridge beams. Place only 1 block at the top of the hole where we have the balance beams raising. Inside the top level here, you notice that we have this kind of awkward like brick wall going through the floor, the beams ending here. It looks a little off kilter. So the way I'm going to kind of offset this is just by running another column of stone bricks up each wall and then connect them across the top. And then I'm going to place stairs in each corner, whoops, like that, to form a little archway, and do the same thing on the other side. It's going to seem a little cramped in here, but I'm going to knock out 2 holes on each side of the front here, and then I'm going to stand right in the center, face each direction, and place arrow slits to either side. And then we are going to take 4 more cobblestone walls and run them up each side here to prevent our men from falling out where the beams connect. All right, guys, finishing up this level now. So yes, we raised these cobblestone walls all the way up to the top, and I ran another line of stone brick above each to cap them both and also give a reinforcing sense to the wall. I also decided to run another archway across the middle here. That way, if this gatehouse is hit by catapults, stone fired from catapults and stuff, is fully reinforced and ready to withstand damage. And now we're going to finish off this roof with stripped spruce beams running all the way across with spruce slabs between. On the rooftop here, we just want to run a single row of stone bricks, starting with polished andesite cornerstones at each end of the roof, and then stone bricks running between them. Starting at the corner, place a stone brick on top, and then skip every other space and place another. And do this along the sides as well. And across the back. Now, I haven't done this in other places, but stylistically, I would really like to see a bunch of polished andesite slabs top off each of these, again resembling coping stones like I was talking about earlier. So now the only thing that's really left to take care of with the gatehouse is the drawbridge. So you might have noticed that I actually previously had this cobblestone extended out the same length as the wall. I have taken it back and I have lowered the cobblestone down all the way to the ground. And so directly beneath these beams, we want to go ahead and throw more polished andesite blocks to look like giant metal blocks as like the corners of a drawbridge. And then we're going to put some spruce logs down here and strip them. And then we're going to come out 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, end it with another polished andesite and strip it. And then we're going to go across here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and another polished andesite here. And then we're just going to go straight back over here. And then we're just going to strip it. Okay, and now we just need to fill the entire middle with spruce slabs. Finally, at the ends here, we're just going to raise chains directly from this piece of polished andesite up to that one. And, just kind of connect them in the middle. That way we have a clear mechanism for how the drawbridge gets raised and lowered. And yeah, it's not a big dramatic drawbridge, but these beams will fit into those holes exactly, and they'll pull this drawbridge directly up. So I still need to do some texturing on the gatehouse and on the keep back there behind it. But this is looking fantastic, and it is a great start to my world. And of course, we're going to need to build some kind of a tower or a structure for that little drawbridge to connect to. And of course, we're going to have to move these animal pens and my, stone generator and this little farm. We'll clear all that out of the way. But I think that is going to do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I would appreciate it if you would come join me for the next one, where we start building the lower ward. Have a great day. Thanks.